listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia Griffin. To master a higher frequency for a new state of mind. Once you walked in a forest of splendor in which everything you did and everything you thought was aligned. It is possible at this time to begin to return to the old knowledge. Intuitive healer and manifestor Julia Griffin is here to talk about this unique time in history when all sentient beings, animals, plants, trees, and the earth are intent on creating this change. The wolves awakened her to the most incredible light, which opened gifts and brought knowledge that she longs to share. You are creators, and you are born to be creators of beauty, possibility, and joy. Join Julia on a journey into a beautiful and magical world where amazing possibilities exist. Let us help open the door. The Power of Inspiration and Awakening with Julia Griffin starts right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin, and you're listening to The Power of Inspiration and Awakening on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience a higher vibration and a new state of mind. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I awakened with wolves. When I met a wolf, it talked to me just as people talk, and they taught me to read the energy of the heart. I could intuitively hear plants, animals, and people as a result, and I became an intuitive healer and writer. And our guest today certainly speaks from the heart. He's written a beautiful book, Earth Wisdom Teachings. Our guest is Carlos Philip Glover. He's trained with teachers from different traditions for more than 40 years at the Ahama Institute of New Mexico. He's the co-leader with Wind Eagle of the Evocative Leadership Mastery in Spain and delivers the Vahoma Stand Tall program in Denmark. For more than 20 years, he served as the dance chief for the UK drum dance. He's the founder of Earth Wisdom Teachings, offering coaching, mentoring, ceremonial work, vision quest, and drum dances. Carlos lives with his wife in the UK. So, Carlos, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Well, I'm honored to be with you, Julia. Thank you very much. And hello to all the listeners.
Okay, so I wanted to know the story of your book. And I know you had to have had a lot of inspiration to write it because there's so much in it. And I think, so tell me about that and how that happened and finding your publisher and all those good things.
Well, I got involved in this lineage of Earth Wisdom Teachings, and it's only one lineage because I think there are many lineages all over the planet. And I really felt some of the information had never gone out into the public domain before. I really felt, because it had helped me so much, I really wanted to help other people and to understand what it was about. And speaking with my teachers, it really became obvious that the way to do it was to tell stories rather than just writing theory and kind of abstract. If you tell stories, then as readers, we have an experience. We go on the journey with the writer. We kind of experience the story as well. And then from that experience, you can evoke some of the energies that I wanted to write about and evoke in readers, really, so they can feel it for themselves.
And I really like your association with the medicine wheel and the earth. And I think one of the first points that you made in the book is you said, to meet our global consciousness, we're called to expand our consciousness. But how? And you said the answer is by healing ourselves and by healing the planet. And I think your book is about this form of healing.
Definitely, yeah. And by healing, I mean the biggest form of healing. So not just a physical healing, but really coming into wholeness with our spirit, emotion, body, mind, and accessing the deep, what I call the deep self or the essence self. So originally in writing the book, I was thinking it would be called A Journey to the Center of Yourself. And so that's the title I was working towards all the way through. that it was actually a journey to find the center of who we are. And in my thinking, I mean, we humans, we're complex beings. Our consciousness is quite complex. But one way of understanding us is to think on the periphery of our circle, there's like a personality self. There's the outer mind, if you like. But there's also this inner mind. And the outer mind is always talking to us in everyday consciousness. It's thinking about this and that. It often jumps from one subject to another. It's remembering past events or projecting into the future or evaluating or analyzing things. It's talking a lot.
It deals in polarities. It feels two ways at once. It has two thoughts at once. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. At least two.
At least two.
If we're able to calm that down, and there are times when we can just make that a lot quieter so we can hear the inner mind, the sacred self at the center of our circle, which is like the field of clear, pure, loving awareness. I'm sure you must have experienced this with the wolves.
Definitely. Our website is called One True Self because we have so many selves, but there's only one that's true. Mm-hmm. And that comes in through our heart frequency. Mm-hmm. But that was the only way that I could hear them. And wolves are sharp, so they would say something to me like, "You're totally off track. That will never work." And I learned they were right. Or they would tell me something's going to happen because this was written in your heart a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And if you'll just stay centered, it will happen. And it would. But the way that I heard them was through my heart.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because animals, wolves, all animals, they're coming from the heart, really. And the heart knows. It has a knowing. And we have that too. But we also have this very big brain that is thinking all the time. So when it's thinking all the time, it's really difficult to hear the heart.
And we have really strong emotions. And I know when I first got a wolf that lived with me, I realized that I had a tendency to feel depressed about things that had happened in the past every morning, like between 10 and 11. And so I thought, well, I should lie down and think about this. And my wolf picked out all my happiest memories and she sent them to me on a wave. And that was the end of my feeling that way because I could go back to those happy memories, like realizing I was pregnant and being at church and the sun coming through the stained glass window, or the first time I loved someone and kissed them, or just going to the beach. And it was one of those times early in the morning where you feel like infinity is at the beach and you're walking into it.
That's beautiful. And I think those kind of memories are really important for us because that we can actually feed ourselves with those kind of memories and expand our consciousness. And I think we all have those kind of, let's say, peak experiences when our spirit feels expanded almost exponentially and we feel at one with everything. And they're not ordinary, quote unquote, ordinary states of consciousness. But they're very real. And we can, by accessing those memories, we can come back into those states of consciousness and reawaken. Very valuable.
Just so fascinating, though, because it completely displaced that habit in like just seconds.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We are able to shift our consciousness very, very quickly. Yeah.
I was going to say you write about epiphanies in your book, and as soon as I read that, I thought that this is what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, an epiphany, in a way, it's a big expansion to a whole new level of consciousness, a new way of seeing. And I feel we humans collectively, we're on the brink, and we need to make that epiphany. We need to make a shift in our consciousness. And I think we're on the brink of doing that. It's already happening.
It's already beginning to happen because I can feel that the energies to awaken are very strong, and I think people are feeling them. They just haven't quite stepped into them yet. Maybe they don't know how.
That's right. Well, hopefully the book, I wrote the book partly to help people find how to do that. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I wondered if in the first part of the book, I know it's East, you had a story of I think I'm saying it correctly, the Hakova Joker.
The Heyoka, yeah.
Heyoka. Yeah, tell us that story because it was such a great story.
Well, it's about a group of people they make a spiritual community, and, they really want to practice all the spiritual practices, meditation, contemplation, prayer. And, it's all going very well. They have beautiful gardens and fish ponds and everything. But over time, all that energy starts to dissipate, and it kind of goes into decline, and they get fewer and fewer visitors, and they're all getting older. People are leaving, and the abbot of the monastery, or the abbess, they think, well, what can I do to keep this going? It's really falling apart. There isn't money to repair the roof, and about the same time, this wandering holy man comes out of the forest nearby and stays for 3 days. And then on the third morning, he's packing his bag, getting ready to leave. And the abbot or abbess comes and says, what could we do? Is there anything you can suggest? And he says, I'm so sorry, I really can't suggest anything to you. But I'll tell you this. The Messiah is living among you, or if you like, the Buddha, the golden one, the gilded, the enlightened one is living among you. And with that, he turns and disappears into the forest. So, what could those words mean? One of us is the Messiah. So the word gets out among the monks and nuns. One of us is the Messiah. I wonder who it could be. Could it be so-and-so? They always seem on a different plane to the rest of us. And there's sister so-and-so in her room doing it. Perhaps she's praying all the time. And then all of them, in their own way, they suddenly think, what if it's me? I mean, it could be. I mean, I've always known I was special, and, perhaps so. And if I was the Messiah, then I'd be on time for meditation. I'd, do my chores really well, and I'd do all these things and behave like an enlightened person. And so the story goes that because they all change their way of thinking and their way of acting, the whole energy of the place changes, and it starts to emanate out into the surrounding countryside, and more visitors are drawn in by that energy, that aura of high energy. So suddenly the whole thing starts to turn around. They've got money again, and things start to flourish as they did before, and all because of those words. The Messiah is among you, and it could be you.
And that's true today, because they say, Christ and Buddha. Well, Jesus became Christ and Gautama became Buddha at the beginning of the Piscean age. And they say this time it's a group awakening. So that may be true of all of us who are in our group awakening.
I think so. I think there's a lot more of us coming into a state of awakening than there were. And of course, we can learn from those enlightened earthly masters. And we can learn from many, many things. We can learn, even from a beggar in the street, you can learn something. But all of us have that seed of potential to step into our enlightened self. Yeah.
Now, I know I worked as a librarian, and one day I was the only person there. And when I had some spare time, I was working on my meditations and trying to do this and trying to do that. And there was someone who had been in a car wreck, and, he wasn't really in our world, I guess. But when I walked out, he was lying on the ground looking at the crabapple tree. And I could see that he was in a state of ecstasy from seeing the blossoms fall. And I thought, oh, he's closer to the universe than I am.
Yeah, that's right.
Although I'm not minimizing study, I'm just saying I saw that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it just takes a little bit. In a way, we're all very, very close to it, but we just need to shift our consciousness very slightly to come into closer alignment.
You have a really good exercise on moving into non-ordinary consciousness. Would you share some of the details of that with us?
Yes. Well, that's all of them are in a sense shifting us into non-ordinary consciousness. But at the beginning, I speak about shifting out of what I call ordinary mind, which is like our way of thinking where we just, everything's very ordinary, we know what it is. And sometimes we have an issue or a challenge in front of us and we're thinking, well, I can't really see any way out of it. So my way of shifting out of that is to really, well, first to change our breath is a good way, to really deepen our breath. Just take maybe 4 long, deep breaths in and out. And that will straight away begin to shift our consciousness. And then remembering, as you've said, remembering some of the extraordinary experiences that the wolves were reminding you of. That is one way of shifting and remembering our extraordinary nature. So putting aside all our preconceived ideas about the challenge that we're facing, put those to one side and shift into a more extraordinary state of consciousness. It's like when we, for me, looking out at the stars here in England, often the clouds obscure them, but when it's a clear night and you look out at the stars and they're infinite in their numbers, and you realize that we come from the stars, our energy comes from the stars, we're kind of made of them. So we also have this infinite nature. And by remembering that, by coming back into that state of consciousness, we remember that in all these situations, there is also the infinite potential in that. There's all potential to move it in different ways. We don't need to be limited and stuck. So shifting our consciousness shifts the way we look at these things, and then we can see more possibility there.
And I think the stars talk to us when we look at them.
They do. Yeah, we just have to open our minds, and it's extraordinary. I've got a book, it just tells me just how far away they are. They're a boggling distance away. The light that we see takes years to get here.
So the stars that we're seeing are different now.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just extraordinary how huge this universe is, and we are of this. We are, in a sense, the universe expressed in this form at this time.
And there is that universal light in everything.
That's right. Yeah, the light is there. We are of the light. And even, in the things around us that we, I was brought up to see, everything as dead matter. The walls are just dead matter. And actually, I was remembering as a kid at junior school, I went to a Catholic convent. We were actually Anglican Protestants. But on one of my first days, the nun was talking, she was the teacher, and she was talking about God. And she said, God is everywhere. And I thought, well, he can't be in the walls because there's no space. I said, is he in the walls? And she said, yes, he's in the walls. For my 4 or 5-year-old brain, I couldn't, oh, really? But that kind of opened me up to this sense that actually the divine, the light, the spirit is in everything.
And that's one of the things that's remarkable about your book to me is you're using the medicine wheel and you're using the matter of the earth, but then you pull in spirituality through very interesting exercises.
Yeah, well, matter is sacred as well as, I think you put in one of your, I downloaded your book, and it talks about matter and Mater, the mother,
right,
sacred Mother Earth. And so these material things are also sacred, and they're also of the light. And we need to learn to take care of it.
I think that that's that our impulse to change things, to move to a higher level of awakening or have a different life, that goes up to the universe and the stars, but we experience it in matter or earth. But earth couldn't respond to us if it wasn't filled with light or
That's right.
God force,
Yeah.
goddess force, I guess I should say. Yeah.
Yeah. The earth responds to us. It responds to our vibration. And we can alter our vibrations by the way we think. You gave a very good example in talking about when you were feeling down and depressed, and the wolves came with those memories and reminded you of those. That's one way that we can change our vibration.
It just amazed me that they could find my good memories and then project them in the place of that.
Yeah, amazing.
I know, and we call them just animals. Folks, they've got a lot more going on than we do because they have no choice but to stay aligned with who they really are.
Yeah, that's right. So we do have this choice in the teachings that I carry. There is this sense that human beings have choice, and it's a great gift, but it's also a big challenge for us. Choice about how we relate to each other and how we relate to ourselves.
And it's a lot of work. I liked how you talked about how changing your emotions or changing your senses, how you feel, or your thoughts, that those actually change the brain, and then those waves and vibrations around you change reality.
Well, that's right. And also even changing the body as well. You know, the body has consciousness. So even just, when you see somebody who's looking, when you're feeling a bit down, you kind of
I was going to say that, or I pull up my shoulders. Yeah.
But you shift the way your body is, or you take a deep breath. You're changing your body. You're changing your whole state of consciousness.
Right. So let's tell them a little bit about the wheel and the colors and how that can be useful in your personal progress.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are many beautiful teachings out there at the moment, but what I really find exciting about the wheel is that it's showing how different kinds of consciousness work together. So they all fit together. So in the East, actually, I've got to look just behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one, the yellow one is the East, where the sun rises, and it's also the stars, and it reminds us of our creation intelligence. So we are creators. Aligned with the stars, we are also creators, and we have this infinite potential. And to remember that we are in human form, but we're also elements of spirit as light, emanating life force. And then in the book, I move around. So the first chapter is there. The second one is here I'm trying to do it the other way around. So it's like the mirror. But the next one is the orange one. And you're moving around into these 8 different states of consciousness or realms of consciousness. That's it. And so that's more about being present and aware. And I give a number of practices how to cultivate presence, not just when we're meditating, but in everyday life.
Yeah, because after you meditate for a few years, it becomes easy to connect with your inner self, but it's difficult to do it all throughout the day.
It can be difficult. So, there's a few tips in there about how to come back into present moment awareness. Really, one good one is to use the senses, the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, the touch of the skin. And I mean, I have a dog, a descendant of wolves, and she's using her senses all the time. And it brings her in. You can only sense things in the present moment. So when you're going about your day, it's good to give attention to what your senses are perceiving. And that opens up more space to be aware. So shall I carry on talking about the different?
Sure, go ahead. Tell me which color next.
So the next one is red, which is in the south of the wheel, and that's to do with our emotional energy. Our emotions are tremendous power source that can give us like fuel to move forward into life, but they can also take us into conflict with other people. So how to work with our emotional energy in a good way. And then the next one is the magenta. That's in the southwest. That's to do with our path in life. And if you think about it, everything in life has like a path. For example, when you hold a seed in your hand, that seed already has the fullness of what it can grow into. Like an acorn will grow into an oak tree.
Right.
So it already has that. And we're like that too. So even as small children, we have a destiny in us. And in our lives, we go through many different experiences. Sometimes our lives fall apart, but it can be a blessing in disguise, because it's like, cracking your shell to expand into a larger identity. And we need to keep growing in life in order to fulfill our unique destiny. So that's what that one's about. Shall I carry on?
Yeah.
The next one is about healing, the purple one, and that's also to do with the body and looking within and working with different ways of healing. I mean, there's thousands of ways of healing, aren't there, that humans have developed, but we have that power to heal.
Right.
And then the violet is in the northwest, which is how we can shape and influence the future. So I call it dreaming, because in a sense, our experience in life is like a dream. So how we think, how we feel, of course, our words have an impact. We can see the impact. Our actions lead to effects, cause effects, but also our thoughts. So the way we're thinking about things. We live in this vast ocean of energy consciousness. It's infinite and it's intelligent and it's alive. So we are affecting things around us by the way our energy consciousness is. And you've taught a lot about manifestation, and this is the sense of dreaming, what we want to manifest in life. How
We're going to have to go to break now, but as soon as we come back, we'll go back and go into dreaming.
Come back to this. Yeah, thank you.
So I'm talking to Carlos Philip Glover, and we were talking about New Earth wisdom teachings. It's quite deep. It has to do with your heart, and I think it will help you find harmony among all the things that are going on right now, as well as healing your life and your earth and the earth. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back for more. Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin, and you're listening to The Power of Inspiration and Awakening. I'm talking with Carlos Philip Glover about his new book, Earth Wisdom Teachings. It's a great book, and he talks about healing ourselves so that we can heal our planet. So we were talking about the medicine wheel before, and we're going to finish that up and then go a little more deeply into some other topics. So, yes. Philip, where were we with this?
I was speaking about this power that we have to influence the future, even if it's subtle, but we have a power to do that. And, over here we have flocks of birds. We call them murmurations,
right?
Starlings. And, you can look this up on YouTube. They're fantastic, these clouds of birds, and they're dancing together, thousands of birds. And each one of those birds is influencing the whole flock
Right.
and being influenced by it. And it's the same with us. We also have a collective consciousness. We experience ourselves as separate, but we can also shift out of that and step into the collective mind and feel, how is the collective field of consciousness wanting to move, and how can I send my energy to help that? So it's very much, what am I sending in my energy? Do I think that person over there is hopeless? Because if I believe they're hopeless, they will be. They're going to be more likely to be like that. If I open to the fact that they too are a light being, a spirit, then that will call that forward. So we have this tremendous power to shift and influence how the future is going.
And that was one thing that I had actually put in the question is how can we shift group consciousness? But I think you're saying if we're awake enough to know that we're part of it and we are shifting it and we hold a positive intent, then that's how we do it.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that we are part of the universe. We're not separate. And in a way, we're also being receptive. So it's not just saying, I want it like this, but sometimes life, the universe says, well, I'm working with you on this and I'm suggesting it could come like that. So we have to be a bit flexible about how our dreams manifest.
Right, because sometimes the universe changes or nature changes our manifestations.
That's right. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about dreaming. I think everyone wants to think they can dream up their life.
Yeah, well, I think we are dreaming up our life, but everything else is also dreaming too. So, which is, one example is you buy a lottery ticket, or everybody wants to make a lot of money, and then the money problem is solved.
Right.
Why is it that we don't always, all of us don't win if that's what our dream is? Because, it's not necessarily in our best interests. So I think there are powers in life that know what is good for us and what we need to really come into our full blossoming and flowering. And, life will always offer us challenges of different kinds.
Always.
So, yeah.
I do myself, if I'm driving and I'm getting upset because they're cutting down trees for a shopping center, I'll say, well, in my world, in my reality, big, beautiful trees are everywhere. And these, we're finding answers to pollution, answers for clean water. Da, 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 da. That's how I try to rewrite it when I see it.
Yeah. Well, I think when we do that, and also I get upset when I see trees being cut down. And I think I'm holding that we are awakening to not needing to cut so many down. I'm holding.
I agree.
I think those images that you're holding, they exist at some level already. And by holding those images, we're drawing them towards us. And some of this transformation, we may not see it in our lifetime. It may come in 7 generations after us. But by, my teacher, one of my teachers, he was initiated into a clan of dreamer chiefs. And they were people that they dreamt about the future, and they sent their energy 150 years ahead.
Oh, wow.
And they saw this time that we're in now with this tremendous challenges that we face, global challenges that we face, but they sent their energy forward to help us in this time, to see us awakening.
Well, I know that dream comes from somewhere, because if I reacted to my emotions, I would probably pull over and cry. But instead, I'm seeing it a different way. So I assume that's somewhere in greater consciousness.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I pull over and cry, and it's okay to let it out. Tears are nothing wrong with tears, but, to come back rather than think it's hopeless, because when we hold a dream about the future, we need to hold the dream, even if we can't see evidence that it's coming. And when we give it up and think, well, it's never going to happen. That's it. We cut the dream. So we need to hold it very highly to see, all the troubles of our world, people actually sitting down together and, treating each other with respect and love, clean waters, clean air, forests blooming, gardens blooming, animals having space. We hold those
Abundance.
images.
Abundance for everyone, so we can study these things and improve our studies and what we can do.
Yeah, that's right.
I was going to say, if we're talking about dreaming and manifestation, I should probably add that sometimes I'll say to a group, you can work on the weather. It doesn't have to be this cold, or you can make things easier for yourself. And I learned about the weather from an African witch doctor when I was a very small girl. But what I saw is sometimes he would work on it for 7 or 8 days, and that's all that he would do. So when nothing happens at first, it doesn't mean that it's not working.
That's right. That's right. That's very interesting. I tend to not change the weather because I feel like there are lots of beings out there who need it to be the way it is. But we can ask for help with that, and
that's what I mean. And we're not going to try to make it 80 degrees in December or anything like that. I'm talking about small changes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
those are just some different things that, I wanted to ask you, what is the edge that's needed to move into greater consciousness and move people from the comfort zone into the edge and into the light?
Well, the comfort zone, nothing wrong with that. But really, when we move out of our comfort zone, then we're more likely to learn. So there is, as I said, I think life will always offer us challenges in different ways. And we go through a range of feelings. We lose people. We need to feel our grief, allow it to really sometimes break us apart in order for us to find a deeper part of ourselves. So coming out of the comfort zone, we come more into the learning zone. And, many things in our culture, they're telling us, just stay comfortable, just stay on the couch, watch TV, but, if we challenge ourselves, then we can grow a bit more. And we need to grow into the depth of who we are. Because the more of us who come into our adult, mature self of wholeness and balance within ourselves, then that's the more we're going to create that in our world. We need balance and wholeness.
Right. And so part of it is just like saying, I think I'll forego a couple hours of my comfort zone and maybe go outside and see if I can hear the animals or feel the birds or meditate or do something different, or maybe even focus on the future in a beautiful way.
Yeah. Well, I think you said early on that, going out into nature is a very powerful way to work with our consciousness, because the beings of nature, they're already in their wholeness. And especially if you go into wilderness areas, here in England, there aren't so many real wildernesses, but, I know over your side that there's a lot more places like that where nature is in its kind of pristine, primordial wholeness. It hasn't been taken out of that. And that can draw us into that wholeness, into that balance. It can remind us of that. So working with nature is a very powerful way of connecting with this inner self.
And I'll say for people who have access to it in the United States, if you want to go to the national forest, it's pretty untouched.
Yeah.
It's all dirt roads, though, so take a Jeep or a truck.
Yeah.
A car won't do it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that. One of the things you said, too, is how important visualization is. And that was something that the wolves were really big about. Like if visualizing it was one of the things that would make things happen.
Yeah, well, that's a form of dreaming as well. It's almost like dreaming is kind of like the inner the unseen side of creation, of creating. So when we visualize things, that's a form of, quote, dreaming. It doesn't have to be visual. It's just that our visual sense is a very, very common thing for us, but it can also be with the other senses. Actually, a way of making our visualizations really powerful is to include other senses, to include smell, hearing, touch. And yeah, it can be a very powerful way. It's also a way of connecting with our deep self, because the deep self will send messages and information in that way.
And I think too that there's a feeling that's associated with the inner self, and if you keep doing it, those good feelings, like walking on the beach and feeling like you're walking into an infinity, that's the kind of feeling that we want if we're really going to create and dream.
Yeah, that's right. We need that state of consciousness. And, our, quote, ordinary self, our personality self, nothing wrong with that, but the more we can bring it into relationship with this more expanded state, then there's a kind of education that can go on. But when we stay in separation, we can get stuck in that. And we need to access these bigger states of consciousness to really teach ourselves.
So I think what we're trying to say is if you want to dream something, expand it, make it bigger, let it correlate to some of the best feelings in your life.
That's right. Bring those real expansive states and feelings into it and add the feeling to it. That adds a lot of power to it. The other thing that I think is quite important is also when you're imagining something or dreaming something, I should say dreaming, also look for how it will benefit other people. So not just about little me, but how will it touch other people? So if I fulfill myself, then I'm also helping people around me. But like in dreaming this book, I was dreaming, how will readers enjoy this? What will they get? How can I touch readers? How can I help them along in their process? Rather than thinking, oh, I'm going to write a book and it's, all about my self-expression. It is, but it's more about helping other people.
It's a much bigger view because you're talking about the heart. You're talking about how it feels when you're with your inner self. You're talking about how physicality feels.
Yeah.
All of those things.
Yeah.
And all those things can be quite magical. And I think that that's what you're saying in so much of the book with this.
That's right. It's magic. We're talking about magic, really.
It is magic.
It's not a hocus pocus, we can do it. We have this power in us.
It's a gift from the universe if you can figure out how to get in there and you keep doing it. It's like, it's the best world that a person in a human body can access.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, you may think you want to watch a movie on Netflix, but I guarantee you this is a whole lot better.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, because I've seen so many things happen that were good that should be impossible for people, or they just clicked into space and into place and their whole lives changed. And I mean, that doesn't happen in a Netflix consciousness, only to the characters in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just noticing these things also helps them to, and giving thanks, of course, gratitude and appreciation, very powerful forces that we can control, and we can generate that. A genuine feeling, not just saying it, but, genuinely giving appreciation to life for what we have, rather than always thinking about what we haven't got,
I know. And it is very much a lot of emphasis on what we don't have, and that if we were really doing well, we'd have this or that or this or that. But personally, I think hearing the universal voice is like one of the coolest things that can ever happen to you.
Yeah, that's right. It's really cool. Yeah. But also, just simple things like being able to walk. I heard somebody recently, she had a car accident And afterwards, she just gave thanks just to be able to walk, because she didn't think she would necessarily have that anymore.
Right.
And maybe, there'll come a time when we probably won't, as we get older. So really to appreciate what we have.
And I wanted to ask you another thing, which is you say that war or peace comes from our emotions. How can we keep our emotions focused on peace?
Great question. So, so when we know that we're at one with the universe, that the divine is within us, when we really know this and really, we make our relationship with the universe real in us, make it part of our reality, our everyday experience, then we come into a state of peace consciousness. So, I mean, we're human, we slip. And there are times when our emotions take over. We say the wrong thing, our partner reacts, and then before you know it, you can slip down a slippery slope, especially, when you're a bit tired or, hungry, different things. You can start to create an argument. So that's what I mean by our emotions can take us to war. I don't mean literally nations fighting nations, but that's what it leads to. So,
right.
Learning how to, I don't want to say manage or control our emotions because they're a life force, but how to direct them so we express them in a life-enhancing way. So we might feel a reaction, we might feel angry, but how can we express that in a good way that doesn't lead us into conflict with the other? Or maybe it does lead us into conflict, but how do we not let that conflict escalate out of control?
I know one of the most profound things I ever read. It was about a lady, and she wasn't happy in her marriage. And she said they fought a lot, but she decided she wasn't going to leave until she could change her emotions about him. And she said the major thing about that was that she learned that a lot of her emotions weren't real. Mm-hmm. They were like waves that were just passing through. And so when I get really emotional, I'll ask myself, is this emotion real? And I'll often think, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that word real, as I say, it's about reality, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And it can feel very real when we're in it.
Right.
The emotion wants you to believe it's real. and it's a wave of energy, and it is bringing some kind of a message to you. But is it going to drive you, or are you going to have a little space to actually hear what the message is? Right. And as you say, to let that wave pass and just say, perhaps with your partner, rather than letting the emotion really push you into speaking something that you might regret later, just say, I'm sorry, right now, I just need a moment. Just give me a few moments. I'll come right back to you. Take a breath. Okay, now I need to say, notice I have this feeling going on, and I'm not blaming you, but I just need to tell you this is what's been happening over here. So there are ways that we can express without getting caught too much and taken into war with another.
And I have noticed, and maybe I just couldn't do it before, or maybe it's new, that when I can get into a peaceful place or a place of love, it feels as though I can connect with people all over the planet who are in that same state of being.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we are connected. It's not that we're limited to our place and time. We are connected through our consciousness with everybody. And the more of us who the more times we come into those expanded states of consciousness, the more we're creating a field effect on the collective consciousness. The more of us who come into a state of awakening, the more it begins to draw other people into it. This is evolution that's taking place at the moment. This is the epiphany that we were talking about.
Right. it's amazing that that exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a gift. That's something we can all be grateful for, is the possibility of staying connected to that group consciousness of higher emotion.
Yeah, that's right. And I think what you were speaking about with using imagery and dreaming the future, the clean waters, replanting trees, taking care of nature, coming back into harmony, that dream is real. It may not be here yet, but we're drawing it to us.
Right, because it's so vivid when I click into it. I'm like, this has got to be more than just me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is more than just me. It's always more than me, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe there are a lot of really beautiful dreams that are hidden that will awaken for us as we go on and move around through these directions and find more of who we really are.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, we are the dreamers, but we're also being dreamed by the universe.
Exactly.
By the infinite self.
It's like having your destiny and your journey, but right now we're right here talking, and it is part of both of those things. But what we're saying and what we're doing is still individual.
That's right. We're experiencing ourselves as individual, but we are part of the universe. We are an expression of life, and it's beautiful.
It is
a unique expression of it. Nobody else can be us.
I know.
The universe expresses it in so many magnificent ways. Yeah.
I think that sometimes in the morning when I see the diversity of the birds and wildlife, it's amazing. Well, we're coming to the end. So do you have any upcoming events or anything you want to tell our listeners? And they can buy this on Amazon or any big bookseller, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, please do. I've written it so that people can really get on board, have an experience. I would like to believe that everybody can get something from that book. It has some pictures in it, some kind of mandalas that I painted.
Oh, they're beautiful. I wondered who the artist was.
That's me. I painted them actually before I wrote the book, and my wife said, you really should put those in because they touch the heart and there needs to be that beauty in there. So please get the book, and or if you want to get in touch through my website, you're very welcome.
Your website will be up so they can see it at the bottom. So that will be good.
Great.
Okay. And we're coming to an end. So I'm Julia Griffin. You can find me on my website, One True Self. And I'm so happy that you were here with us, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. Namaste.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia Griffin, to master a higher frequency for a new state of mind. Join us next time as Julia takes us deeper into the memory of the moments of light where transcendence and enlightenment emerge. The memory of the jewel of consciousness is always lived within you, to tap into waves of energy and create huge changes by imagining the beauty of the vision and desires that are hidden in the heart. Learn to find your way back to nature, beauty, and your own heart, which holds the secrets of your existence and future. To discover more about Julia's adventures, animal communication, and the teachings she brings to every show, visit onetrueself.com. That's onetrueself.com. That's ONE, trueself.com.